First of all, let me say this. I'm going to present as if we're in a room full of people. All right, everybody, welcome to our Beyond the Blueprint, the 5 C's in the Canvas classroom. And today we are focusing on choice. If you attended a couple of weeks ago, we offered a session in our Teacher Connect series with Beyond the Blueprint, the 5 C's in the virtual classroom with communication. But today we're going to be focused on choice. And I did change the name of it from the virtual classroom to the Canvas classroom. So if you are a Seesaw user, if you're some type of Seesaw LMS, then make sure that you look out for other Teacher Connect digital learning series sessions that we'll be offering, because this is just for Canvas. All right. So be on the lookout for other sessions that we may have in our Teacher Connect that deals with the Seesaw LMS. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Samantha Ray. I have secondary experience, but I just happen to have elementary schools this year and last year. And so I am continuing to grow. Definitely, this has been definitely a learning experience for me, but I am the baby diff on the team of digital teaching and learning. And thank you for joining me. So our session objectives today, we're going to talk about the impact and the importance of student choice in the classroom. And then we're going to go over some strategies to implement student choice into your Canvas classroom by way of choice boards, checklists, mastery paths, and student responses. Okay, so today that is what we are going to do. That's our objectives of our session. So the first thing I want to start out, usually when we introduce student choice, I, come in with this launch of this meme. And let me give you a little background behind the meme. This is an episode of Dexter's Laboratory where Dexter is determined to learn French, the language of love. And in order to get the girls, of course, that's his motive. And so Dexter falls asleep with the audio tutorial playing in the background, and it skips. And so when he wakes up, he only has learned one phrase. And so the next day, of course, he's talking to all the girls and they're just in love. So if I could be Dexter for a minute, I would say it. The girls would say it again, Dexter. And he would say, student choice. All right. It's magic. It's magic to our ears. Okay. So what is student choice? It's the ability for students to learn by way of path and pace. All right. Students can choose their own path, their own pace in the way they want to learn. This is key because it gives the students a responsibility, and it's no longer the my way or the highway mindset from our teachers and educators. Students get to take some type of ownership, and it gives them a personalized learning experience. So think about it. We like choices. Look how long we spend on our Bitmojis. Look how long it takes us to customize our dream home. We want the floors this way. We like the walls this way. We like to have choices. And so it shouldn't be any different within education, okay? Within learning, students should have some type of choice as to way they learn, how they learn. So that's why it's important for us to implement student choice, little streams of student choice within our classroom. I think about buffets. They are the largest food chain in the world, right? Because we want to have our pizza. I want to have some steak. Maybe I want a salad. I may want to have, some Asian food. So a buffet has all of that. There's different choices. And the end result is I'll still be full at the end. And so that's the way it is with student choice. No matter what path they take, if a teacher or educator design that path for the student's journey, they'll be able to get to that destination of reaching the standard. So student choice, again, takes us from this teacher-driven lesson, all right, the way the teacher drives it, to a more student-centered approach as educators. When we look at a particular standard, or when we're pacing ourselves for the year, or for how we're planning out our lessons, we normally say, okay, first I know that the student needs to learn this, and then this needs to come next, and then that. But what if there was some choices embedded in there? That way, I'm reaching all learners. That way, the students feel like they have a voice. The way you learned it to teach to your students is no longer acceptable. You've got different learners. So you need to be able to reach them and go from a more a more teacher driven approach to a student-centered approach. We studies have shown that behavior and classroom management is limited when students have a choice as to how they learn. When they can know that this person over here may do a song and this person over here may do a poem, to be able to recite back to you those concepts, guess what? We both have reached the same destination that we need to, but we just took a different path. So there is a need for student choice to be able to go from student driven to from teacher driven to student centered. So I want to hear from you because it's Halloween, of course, in lieu of Halloween. Um, I want to hear from you. What are some fears that educators have about student choice? And earlier in our session, I'm going to share some responses from our session as well. Let's go to menti.com and you're going to use the code 294626. We want to hear from you. Student choice could be and so spooky. So it can be something that, that we necessarily don't want to implement into our class. So in honor of Halloween, let's get past that. Let's face our fears, right?
Put spaces in. There you go.
All right. So we have our there we go. Okay, there we go. We have some responses from earlier, and I'm gonna go out of here for a quick minute and go back to some of our responses. Excuse me. All right, so some of the responses that I got earlier from some of the teachers, some of the responses that we got was, let me see, here it goes. Some fear that with student choice comes more work for the teacher, more work creating multiple assignments, grading, prep work. So I get it, right?
That's totally their answer.
All right. Educators may be afraid that students select books or assignments that are outside of what was planned, for, therefore causing the teacher to plan to incorporate their choice. Okay. All right. Giving students more choices means more work for the teacher, the student not learning the entire concept. All right. So let's look at that one for a minute. The student's not learning the entire concept. Well, if the path is planned by the teacher, right, who knows the depth of the standard that needs to be reached, why not? Why wouldn't a student get all that they need? Why wouldn't they get the entire concept? Why wouldn't they master that skill? Having too many choices, students end up lost in the sauce. Not having enough choices where students are finished early and bored. Okay. All right. Press enter to resume scroll. Here we go. The educator may be afraid to try something new, especially knowing that standards have to be taught a certain way. Everyone not together, still lagging behind. Let's look at that. What is differentiation? If you're at point A and I'm at C, do I supposed to wait on you? Is that how this works? No, I'm supposed to create my teacher's supposed to create some type of differentiated assignment that allows me to further and go past that skill and go beyond, and I'm able to apply my learning. All right. So I don't know about that one. Giving students, what we talk about, excuse me. Everyone is not lagging. Let's see, the educator may be afraid to try something new, especially knowing that standards have to be taught a certain way. Let's see, when I look at a standard as an educator, who determines which way it has to be taught? Yes, the technical skills are needed, but the way or the delivery, who determines that? Is it the teacher? I would need some more explanation on that. Simply because as long as I'm reaching the standard, I think as long as the skill and the concept is being mastered, I think we'll be okay. Not learning the objective with rigor. All right, look at this one. I fear that I will lose control of my class. It makes me nervous giving them full control and choice in their learning. Bingo. That's
Mm,
exactly what we struggle with. When I let go, that gradual release. But what good is it? I'm supposed to be a facilitator of learning. What good is it if the student has to depend on me to get them from A to B? We want to make sure that they are assessed correctly and that they understand what that they are learning. And that's the only way. I have to let it go. So I get it, but at the same time, uh, there's some gradual release that can be put there for those students who are ready. All right, let me go back and I'm going to look at our response from um, our session that we have now. Okay, let's see. What do we get? I'm going to choose present. It says they won't do the things that are important. Very good. Sometimes that happens with student choice. You're afraid that they won't get to, they'll do all the fun stuff or they won't get to what they need. Explain what you were saying from that.
well, exactly. The teachers are like, well, if I give them the choices, then, they're not going to pick the ones that I really want them to do. That's one of the things. So, and this exactly. So it's a lot of work for me to put a lot of extra, to give them choice when there's specific things I want them to do.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I,
That's what I hear.
gotcha.
That's
And
that's what I hear.
and I would make sure that when I'm planning, and maybe that needs to be part two of this with my student choice, when I'm planning my student choice, instead of the strategies, maybe part two needs to be what goes into planning that. I need to make sure that I have intentional activities that either path that they take, they'll still be able to get where they need to be and get the
Yeah,
skills that they need.
exactly.
All right, so here are some strategies for student choice implementation within your Canvas classroom. Once again, if you are viewing this and during our recorded session and you need something for Seesaw, reach out to our Seesaw specialist or be on the lookout for different Teacher Connects sessions that will take place dealing with that. All right, so the first thing is choice boards. What exactly is a choice board? What is it? It's what it sounds like. A choice board is a type of organizer that allows the students to move at their own pace and have choice over how they learn and how they interact with the content. Okay. Then we're going to talk about checklists, is exactly what it sounds like. A list of standard driven tasks and activities that allow students to focus on different skills, but still reach the depth of the standard. All right. So all of these are ways to personalize learning for students. All right, let's talk about response choices. This is a way for students to have choice over how they respond to certain assignments. Maybe this is a little way over your head and you want to start with little pieces of choice. Response choices within Canvas is a good place to start. And mastery path, as we were talking about. Once again, if I'm trying to get to, let's say I'm trying to get to the high school, you may go through town, I may go through 401, but we're still going to reach the same place. There are different avenues, different paths for us to get to the same destination. And so that's what mastery paths within Canvas does. And a lot of people are using mastery paths as like a competency based. Students are able to get somewhere based off of what they know. And you can differentiate instruction, what we're supposed to already be doing, but you can also use mastery path as a way for choice. So let's start with choice boards. I'm going to go over to my Canvas. All right, and so this is my. Can you still see my screen? All right. So this is my training playground, and because I don't have any courses right now, but anyways, this is my training playground, and inside of it, of course, I built some modules and I built some different pages. So once I'm in here with my pages, if I want to do a choice board, let's talk about the components of a choice board. All right, so I think I'm gonna open this up So what I ended up doing was embedding this, the technical side of this, something that we learned during our Canvas technical training. With the embedding of a choice board, I just used it as a page. And of course, I'm going to build my page into my module. And then I can do it as a Google slide. I can do it as a Google Draw and embed it into the document. But this particular one is on a Google Doc. Okay. And so students are able to, all right, guys, open up your choice boards. They're able to do activities that are specifically tailored to that unit or whatever we are studying. Let me open up this and make this a little bigger. Nope. There we go. And so, of course, in honor of Halloween, this one is Halloween themed. All right, so here we go. We have our chapter 2. It tells us at the top what's a component of a choice board. So one thing that needs to be on there is what we're studying, so students can make meaning to the activities that they are doing. We want them to be able to make meaning to match those activities to what's actually taking place, what we're actually studying in class. Okay, and then it says you will need to go to chapter 2 module to access assignments. Here are different things that are included on this choice board, and I have embedded it into Google as a Google Doc. So students have that copy of the information, and I just did a page, so they have that. All right, so if you look in a little closer, let me zoom in. We have do the drag and drop activity found in Canvas, label the different directions listed on the sheet. That's 25 points. So another component of a choice board is to be able to have those weights on there. That gives students the accountability factor. So if I keep choosing the 15 points assignment, which still is good, it helps them to master that skill. It still reaches the learning target, but at the same time, it doesn't weigh as much because it's not as in depth as the other assignments. Then this is a good, let me let this person in. This is a good way for you to have points on it. So that way students can say, okay, I know I missed this last test. I missed this last assessment. I didn't do well on. So this right here is 40 points. They already know how to do a case study. Now keep in mind, you wouldn't put new activities and tasks on here that you have not prepared them for. You want to make sure that this is something that this is something or a skill that they have already practiced before in another unit or another chapter. Okay, so do the case study from chapter 2. That was worth 40 points. Do the worksheets from chapter 2. Okay, so these are just kind of a little generic, but this is an example of a choice board. Okay, and so for those of you who are just joining us, we have went over the importance and the impact of having student choice within your classroom. We've also talked about some fears that teachers or educators may have about implementing choice and giving up that control, or maybe too many choices or overworking themselves. All right. I am going to, let me see. Here we go. Good. All righty. So that is an example of a choice board. And then this is embedded by way of Google document, as I said earlier. Okay. So I'm going back to my Canvas classroom, and maybe I wanted to embed it in a module. So here we have the week of November 2nd through the 6th. I have, of course, my lesson that students click through. They're clicking next. I've got my vocabulary key terms. I've got my choice board because maybe I want them, after they go through their launch and the key terms, I want them to start actually working on, the content. Okay. So with choice board, or maybe I spent a couple of minutes on Zoom explaining to them, and teaching to them in that way, like a lecture type style. And then this is now for them. This is their time now for them to do activities to reach that are aligned to the learning target. All right, so this is another way. Choice boards number 2, and this is a way for you to do implement choice boards into your Canvas. And so what I did was I used the Google slide. Now slides is good because almost it's very easy to maneuver as far as when students are editing and things like that. this is good because you give the students a template and they don't have to build anything. So here it is, a choice board already embedded in Google Slides. I've got my instructions. Choose 4 activities to complete. I had some circles over here. A copy of this choice board has been provided for you. So when we use Google Assignments, the technical side of this is it's just like Google Classroom. It gives you um, a copy that goes to each student, so you don't have to rely on them to make copies. And it's something technical they don't know how to do. Everything is spelled out for them right then. Right there, okay? And then it says place one of the provided circles. I had some circles right here, but I'm not sure where they went to. But anyways, the students will be able to drag the circle onto which activity they're going to do. So if I want to do this one, 15 points. No, I need a couple more points. I'm going to do 20, all right? And because I like to create, okay? So I'm going to drag that little circle over to this little box, and this lets the teacher know what activities I've chose to do. All right, then it says each activity should be done on a new slide. So this is my main slide, and then my slides under that for each student, for each activity is going to be on a separate slide. All right, then it says turn in, submit the entire slide deck when you have completed your 4 choice assignments. And because I'm doing a Google assignment, this is going to be easy. I'm just going to use it as an external tool. So let me go back to my modules. All right, and then I'm going to add. I'm going to walk through this. I'm going to add. No, I'm not. I'm going to add right here what components I want in my module. And I'm going to do an assignment because this is the learning is going to be back on them, and I want them to actually submit something to me. So this is where I name it. Choice boards. Okay. And then I'm adding that item. All right. Then I'm going to drag it to where I want it to be in the flow for students, where I want it to be. So I want it to happen right after this. Let me click on choice boards. This opens it up, and I am able to edit anything I want my students to see. All right. So in here, this is where I'm going to, I want to put a template for my students to already see. And then I want to go back down here and I want them to submit it to me using that same template. Okay. So I'm going to use Google Apps. All right. And then I'm going to type in choice boards. And for this particular one, for this particular one, I'm going to choose this one. Oh, sorry. And then here it is. And this gives me a chance to add some directions. So if I want a space, all right. And so if I say be sure to read the directions, complete it. That's not what I'm supposed to put. Listed on the slides. All right. So because I'm a format person, I'm just going to make sure it's there, make sure it's big and bold. All right, there it goes. All right, so now these are the choice boards. This gives an example of what they're going to be doing. When I scroll down here, I'm going to make this 100, make sure it goes in the particular assignment group that I want it to go to. When I get to submission type, I'm going to submit this as an external tool, meaning I want them to have their own copy. I want them to use this example, this template that I'm using, and not start from scratch. So right here, I'm going to go to find, and I'm going to go to Google Assignments. All right, and it's going to ask me to continue, and it's asking me what file do I want to attach. All right, choice boards 2. All right, no due date. Let's see, let's just put as a due date. Boom. All right, and there it is. Each student will get a copy, and then I'm going to click on create. All right, and so with this, that means every student is going to have this slide deck to turn in their assignment. And down here, I'm going to make sure I put my due date, save and publish. So that choice falls in my module in this particular way, okay? And here it is. This is my instructions that I added to personalize. This is what they will be seeing. So that way it won't be too new for them when they click on the external link to turn it in. Okay, they've already seen it and I've walked them through the instructions. Maybe I want to include some type of verbal instructions that are audio that goes right here. I can, and I can do that in my content editor. All right, and so here it is, the different choice boards. And then down here, each student will get a copy and they know that for every choice, the 4 assignments that they're choosing, they are going to add a slide. I've got all the directions step, one by one, but of course I want to reiterate, but I want them to be able to have some type of visual as well. So here is the example of the choice board. Let's take a look at this. We talked about the different components, what belongs in the choice boards. Of course, I got a plethora of activities. I've got the points listed. I've got spelled out, instructions on what is needed. Okay. And so this is an example of a choice board. And this is another one that I found. And this is on chapter 3. Of course, what's needed in a choice board is the title, so the student can make meaning to what we are going over. So they just won't see a bunch of work. Okay. So any questions on that? All right, so for those of you who are just joining us, the only thing we talked about so far is the importance and the impact of having student choice within your classroom, within Canvas, your virtual classroom. And we've talked about fears that educators may have by including choice. And so now we're on our first strategy, which is choice boards, which are choice boards for us to be able to implement those into our lessons. So that was 2 ways you can do it. The first way was a Google Doc with just as a page. The second one was inside of your module as a Google, it's got an assignment, as a Google assignment. All right, so moving right along to checklists. All righty. So checklist, what are the components of a checklist? Okay, so the DTL team introduced checklist sometime maybe 2019. And checklists are a good way for students to have some type of physical expectation in their hands, or since we are virtual, it can also be something that they can check off as a Google Doc. Okay, it could be something that's embedded into your Canvas. So different components of a student checklist will be that make sure that it's standard. We just don't want a list of activities that do not give the students, they don't reach the learning targets and they do not reach the deficit standard. Aligned activities, engaging activities. Okay. It's meaningful when I get to choose how I can learn, and I can go this particular path and you can go this particular path, but we're still going to end up at the same place. All right. So let's look at some checklists that were that I have included into my module. Now you would have either or. So I'm going to erase these 2. So after we did our lesson launch, we did our vocabulary terms, we're either going to go to choice board or checklist. All right, so different components of a checklist. So this is just embedded as a page. And of course, we already learned that during our Canvas rollout training when we first rolled out Canvas. And here it is. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Nope, every time I do that. Let me see. SR checklist example. Boom. All right, here we go. All right, so this is a checklist example. The components, we talked about it being standard based. We talked about it having learning targets, aligned activities. All right, make sure that it's just not busy work. Okay, and make sure that it meets our standard. And here we have the directions up here at the top. If you're worried about the technical side of this, then of course we can always help with this. But this is a table, and everything is color coded. inside of this checklist, now there are different ways you can make checklists, but in this particular one, this has learning targets listed. This helps you as the teacher to remember what they're doing. I'm able to know what they're doing is targeted at that particular learning target. The activity and the learning target matched, and I'm showing proper alignment. This has a overall self-reflection. This is a little piece for students to grade themselves. Maybe it could be a rubric right there. Do you think you should get 90 out of 100? Do you think you should get 100 out of 100? Okay. So when students have these checklists, it's no mystery as to what is due for that day. I know what is due for this week because my teacher has spelled it out for me and I can choose. Another thing that you can incorporate on a checklist are is must do's and may do's. Must do's are options that you have to do. Like we have, like I may have like a little key up here, a little star. You have to do those particular activities. And may do's are maybe you can choose between one of these may do's, and those could be extensions, extension activities that are built off of those must do's that you must have. All right. And then here's a little spot for the teachers to, um, uh-oh. Here's a little spot for the teachers to offer feedback. Okay. And so this is good because when I pass it back to my student, they have a way for me, them to see what they made. They don't have to, wait on the particular grade, but they can see a way how to fix, all right, with effective feedback. So that has a little option for them to do that. Another example of a checklist that you can embed. Oh, hold on. Okay, here's another example of a checklist. And this one has icons. So that's another component that can be added to your checklist with these icons. I know that this means I got to turn in. This means I'm going to need my Chromebook. This means I need to meet with my teacher. This one, of course, would have been Canvas. And this one is headphones, partners, discussion. So I know what's needed for each thing. Okay. So I know for this particular one, over here for digital content, this is the assignment and this is what I'm going to need. Of course, we would replace this with a Canvas icon. Okay. And then here are the learning targets. Explain the impacts of physical environment on early settlements in the new world. So these activities match that learning target. So when you go back to build your checklist, make sure that you have must do's and may do's, or if you just want to have 3 types of activities that can go back to the learning target. And once again, for the technical side of this, if you ever need help embedding, embedding some things into Canvas, or if you need help building this, or somebody to just kind of listen to you and work through this, make sure that you, schedule one of us diffs. We can meet with you virtually. It is no problem. All right, another strategy, for choice is the way students turn things in. So, what if you said, I'm not ready for choice boards? I'm not ready for a checklist. A student response is kind of more of my speed. So, here's an example. I have an exit ticket down here at the bottom of my module. And once you click on it, it has something simple. What was the central theme of today's passage? All right. And you have 2 choices of how you can turn this in. Choice 1, I've spelled it out for them. Turn your responses in the text below. Type your responses in the text below. Choice 2, record your response using the feature under media recordings. So all I did, I built my assignment as regular, right? Maybe, maybe the other things were a little, too much. And so I wanted to add just a little bit of choice, just to begin. And so here I scroll down. During my submission type, I'm going to choose online, and I'm going to choose text entry and media recordings. And it's going to show the students, going to give the students different choices on how they're going to turn it in. All right. So I'm going to click on save. And let's go see what this looks like in our student view. All right, this is my course. As a student, my teacher told me to go to next week's module. All right, I'm going to click on my exit ticket. And when I see that, I'm going to click on submit a course. And here's my option to type. So this is good for those who just need to write and get it out of their mind, and be able to read it. And then this is for the person that's not so good, or maybe they just don't want to. All right. So this student, it gives that student a chance to record. All righty. Or they can use some other type of media recording and they can upload it here. So if they want to include, use their video camera or their webcam on their Chromebook, they can. And that is just a little tiny way to offer choice in Canvas. All right, let me see. I got something in the chat. All right, gotcha, no problem. All right, so let's see what else we have. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to leave my student view. The next one is a thing called Mastery Paths, and there is going to be future training on that by our Canvas admin. But I want to show you, in case you want to dig, and get started with that. Here is a way to include choice with a mastery path. Now, we already talked about earlier, a lot of educators are using mastery paths as being competency based off the depending on what the students learned from previous assignments. Okay, so you can use it that way, but in this way I'm going to show you is a way to be able to implement choice. Okay, so say for instance, in my module, because we don't want to build standalone pages, my students are going through their launch first. And then when you click through it, they're going through their key terms, and maybe I may include like a Quizlet or something like that, or some type of graphic organizer for them to write down their terms, or a crowdsourcing activity for them to provide me a picture. Like if the term is political freedom, they can provide me a definition. What does this mean in this context, and maybe a picture of what comes to your mind to associate with the term political freedom. All right, then they do their activities with the choice board that is assigned with that particular what we're learning. I clicked the wrong thing. And then next, I want them to be able to be assessed. So I need a test. I need to know, after doing your launch, after doing your terms and your crowdsourcing activity with your vocabulary, and doing your different activities, I need to know what they know. Okay, so here it is. I have a quiz that I built, and remember the flow of our module, right? Here it is. I have a quiz that I built. I need this to be the indicator as to where my student is going to go next. So I've got my quiz already built in, and we know how to do that with our module. We add in our modules. We add in quizzes that way when we add different components inside of our modules. All right, so here is our quiz. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on Mastery Path. So it's going to allow me to open up my quiz. And so in there, this is where I can decide what path comes next. Okay, so I got the questions to my quiz. If I want, first thing you do is your scores. If I want my students, those who I want them to be able to score 80. Let's start with a 70. Let's do some proficiency. And then down here, I want them, this is for my 80 people. It says number is too large. Let me see. Well, let me do the 10. Oh no, this is a tail. Okay, so anyways, let's go in here and I'm gonna add, and this is just a particular quiz. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the standard. All right, so I want them to be able to add, I want them to be able to take this quiz, and if I need them to do something else, they can have some type of choice. All right, so down here, I want to add this quiz as well. I wonder why it's giving me that. Oh, you know why it's giving me that? because my quiz, the one that they're taking is already got answer choices, okay, that are already have weights on them or have points on them. They're worth certain points. So that's what that is. So that particular quiz that that they're going to take in the beginning to get to these next assessments or next activities, they already have points on them. All right. So of course, if I wanted to do 80, they got to score at least an 80 on that quiz that I just uploaded. All right. It's going to take them to this. If I want to add something else here, maybe I want them to have another assignment. Here it is. They're going to have to, if they score this amount of points, it's going to take them to this and this. All right. But if I want them to have choice, all I do is click on the or, and it's going to, excuse me, that and sign, and it's going to give them a choice of this and this. Okay. So what I would do first is I would build my module the way I want it first. Then I would go back, and those standalone pages that could be for lower level learners or whoever, those standalone pages, then I would go and add them to my mastery paths. Okay. And I'll show you how to do that in a few minutes before we get ready to leave. So here it is again. You have your first activity, and then you have your or. Okay. And if I want them to be able to do both, I can. And I'm building the path. So when we went to those fears that teachers have, when they say we don't understand or we're scared that our students are not going to get the tools that they need, you as the educator, you're planning this out. You are planning the path for them to take that still gets them to the same destination as the other students. But me as a student, I may require two things, and you may require one additional thing that has to happen. Okay. So be on the lookout for Mastery Paths PD a little later, but this is a way, and there are plenty of videos and plenty of resources that you can use. This is a way to implement choice into those lessons, or you can use it as something being competency based. What does the student know from previous assignments? You can use it in that way. I need them to score a certain amount on this. So once again, let me go. I'm going to go to back to my module. All right. And so once again, I followed the flow of my module. Now I need to find out what they know. And that's where I build a mastery path. And so earlier when it wouldn't give us the certain points, it's because that one was worth 4 points. So it was telling me my points was too low. Okay. So once I build it in there and I've got my mastery paths, here it is. I've got one student. If they score 4, they're going to go on to this or this. They get to choose. And if I have this student who scores a 2, no, they need to go back to some type of review so I can choose the particular page where I want them to go. All right, they need a review because they didn't get it, right? And so I will go in here and find a page. Oh, we don't have no pages in there. But I can go in there and find a page, and it will take them back to something lower for them to be able to get remediation on that particular standard and that particular test. All right, if you have pages that are already made and you want to add them to a mastery path, all right, make sure, if I want to add this to a mastery path, make sure when I'm in my edit, and there's my content editor, I'm going to go down, scroll down, and I'm going to choose allow in mastery path. If I need that student to go back, they didn't make a certain grade that I needed them to make, so they need to go back, that lower level student, here it is. I need them to go back to the beginning. I'm going to choose this, and it's going to take them back. So pages that you've already built, that's what that option is for. All right. Any questions? Any questions? So we went over these 1, 2, 3, 4. We went over these 4 ways to implement student choice by way of choice board, checklist, response choices, and Canvas and mastery paths. All right. If you need someone to sit down and go through these with you, maybe you feel like you're not as artsy or they're not going to look as good, start with something basic. Remember, we talked about starting with those response choices, different ways for students to turn in assignments, or to tell you what they've learned. They can either, type it or turn in by way of video or audio. All right. So if you need help with this and the technical side of this, where to go, what button to push, please let us know. Reach out to us. I would suggest that you build your module for it first before you implement those activities, because you can get overwhelmed really easily trying to come up with activities, and then some of them are not even aligned to our learning targets, right? Uh-oh. Where's my other side? My other thing go? All right, there it goes. And thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you want to go back and look at our recorded sessions, you can. These are our diff hours. Make sure you reach out to us if you have any need any help. I have the NESIS code for this course. I'm going to screenshot who is still here, and I know Mr. Hall left. Do we have any questions? Feel free to reach out to us, and I see who all is in here, and I will make sure that you will get your NESIS code for this course today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Thank you.